Hi, thank you very much for joining me. I am so glad you're here because we're actually looking at an employee engagement framework. Something really simple, just a few very simple steps with a huge amount of research behind it that will help you improve employee engagement in your team and in your company. This research over many decades has been, and over many different companies and many different people have performed this research in different bits and pieces to come up with the framework that I've put together, a very simple 4.5 steps that anyone can do to improve that employee engagement in their own teams. Now, some people might have a different definition of what employee engagement is, so let's just get on the same page for starters. Very simply, it's employee engagement is how engaged your team is in the work in the company that they work for. How focused are they? How much do they care about the work? Now, when someone cares more about their job, when they have a higher engagement, it leads to discretionary effort, which is that extra effort, going the extra mile. It's maybe staying back 5 or 10 minutes every day, or maybe longer, and it's without any extra need of reward because they're enjoying the work itself. They are engaged in the work. Now, of course, someone caring about their job, that might sound a little bit touchy-feely. The research has actually shown there is a very real benefit for people caring about the work that they do. In 2019, Gallup published a huge study on the benefits of highly engaged teams, covering more than 82,000 teams. This thing is absolutely massive. And what they found when they analyzed the difference in performance between the actively engaged people and teams and the actively disengaged people and teams who really didn't care and they didn't want anything to do with the company at all and they were dragging their feet on the way to work, they found 20% higher sales in the engaged teams, 21% higher profitability in the companies, higher productivity, 10% higher customer ratings from customer service and customer service-based teams, 24 to 59% lower turnover. Now, if there is one thing that I know, turnover is a massive cost for companies. If you lose a staff member, you could expect to pay about 30% of their wage. So, for example, and just to make it easy, let's say someone is on $100,000 a year, and just to replace them, it would cost you at least $30,000 in lost time, lost productivity, in hiring someone again, in putting that advertisements out, and then retraining and getting someone back up to the same level of speed and competency that the person was who left in the first place. Are you starting to see now why employee engagement and having people care about the work they do is so important? We've got lower absenteeism as well, so people have fewer sick days because they actually enjoy coming to work. And it's not to do with the money. You could pay someone $1 million, but if they don't enjoy the work, they're still going to drag their feet. You've got fewer defects and fewer quality issues in the work, and you've got fewer safety incidents as well. And there's a great story about that. One of the greatest CEOs I ever worked for actually didn't measure employee engagement. All he measured was safety incidents at work. He said that that was one of the clearest indicators of employee engagement. And according to this, he is correct. So let's check out these very simple 4.5 steps that have been collated from a huge amount of research and that are really simple and something that you can get started in your team straight away. We've got clarity, meaning checking in, progress, and matching the skills to the task. Because of that research, for each of these, clarity, meaning, checking in, and progress, each one of these steps are actually separate. They're on their own. So each one of those steps on their own has been proven already through the research to increase employee engagement by between 14 and 59%. So that already, you should be saying, well, this is fantastic. One of these things has the power to increase employee engagement by that much. Now, what happens if you combine them? Well, that's when things start getting really cool. So let's delve into the framework. First, we've got a very simple thing, might seem simple, but again, a lot of research behind it, is clarity. So what do we mean by clarity in our work? Basically, it means sitting down with your team, making sure that everyone is absolutely crystal clear on the desired outcome or objective that you're working towards. It's their reason for being here. So why are they here? What's the outcome that everyone is genuinely working towards? Make it clear, spell it out, write it down. And the execution steps to get there. That's also very important. So we've got an objective, but then we've also got the steps that we need to get there. You would be surprised at how few people actually really delve into this and really write it down and sit down with their team to figure it all out collaboratively as well. So, clarity. It seems simple, so why is it actually important? Well, like I said, the research agrees. We've got research from Google. We've got research from Gallup. We've got research from Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who was the author of Flow, where you're in the flow state and everything is flowing and you're, in this great sense of, of wonderful flow in your work. Basically, engagement. Let's check out Google first. So in 2012, a Google project called Aristotle studied 180 projects and engineering teams. They found that the highest performing teams all had this trait in common, and it was structure and clarity of the work. So an individual's understanding of jobs' expectations, in other words, our outcomes. Very simple. And the process. So the steps. What are the steps? The process for fulfilling these expectations and the consequences of one's performance. And that's important for team effectiveness. Goals must be specific. Write them down. Collaborate with the team and figure them out. And they must be challenging for the people so they don't get bored, of course. Give them a little bit of a stretch goal. And we'll look into that with matching skills to the task as well. And they must be attainable so people can actually feel like they can attain them. Because if you don't know where you're going, then any road will take you there. And I do think that may have been the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland, but it's also attributed to George Harrison. Next, we've got Gallup. And in 2015, the Gallup Business Journal studied more than 190,000 employee engagement responses. So this isn't just some person sitting in a room somewhere analyzing one team. This is a huge amount of research and analysis on what makes teams tick. And so they looked at the responses and they found that 50% of employees were not clear on what is expected of them at work. Now, to me, that is actually heartbreaking when someone says that. So 1 in 2 people or 1 in 2 teams are not clear on what they come into work and they don't really know what's expected of them, but they've got someone looking over their shoulder and whipping them to try and do a better job, but they're not super clear on exactly what that good job means. To me, that actually is genuinely heartbreaking, but it's also easily fixed. And also with Gallup, they found that of these people who did not know what was expected of them at work, only 4% of those were engaged in their work. So now we start to get into the engagement. It's very clear. Engagement is low when there's no clarity. And also, when companies were clear on what was expected of them, they saw a 34% jump in engaged employees. So would you like a 34% jump in engaged employees? I mean, that would be great, especially for something that seems so simple. And it's free. You don't have to pay $20 million, $100 million for this to happen. This is something that you can sit down with your team straight away over lunch, over coffee, over the next team meeting, and you can do this immediately. That is the real beauty of it, and such a huge increase. I mean, most people would be happy with a 1 or 2% increase. 34% jump, that is great. Now lastly, of course, we've got the great man, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. You may have heard of him. If you haven't, he's written a great book called Flow, which flow is when something is flowing and going well. You're in the zone. You're feeling engaged in your work. So he released a study outlining 3 things in place when a person experienced the flow state. And that's a state of ease and happiness, as we were talking about. And one of those things was when the person clearly knew what to do every step of the way. So they didn't have to stop and figure it out, which can be fine in some instances. But if you're wanting to really get into the zone of something, what the steps are every step of the way. Sure, it might be challenging, and that's great, and that's a good thing as well, but you still know what the steps are. You know what the path is, and that's really important. And that is clarity. Next, in our 4.5 steps, we've got meaning, bringing meaning to the work. What do we mean by meaning? This means tying our clear objective. So we've got our clear objective, which we've sat down with our team, we've figured out, wonderful, wonderful, and we're tying that to a higher purpose, to a higher meaning. It's a purpose beyond the work itself. Why are we doing this? It's our why. So Simon Sinek, that great book, Start With Why. This is what we're doing. Why are we here? It's now this could be something like seeing the impact on the customers that you serve. What are the benefits that they're getting? And have them talk to the customers. That's a great piece of research that we'll look at in a second. It could be for the team to grow, to become the best in the world at this, that, or the other. Best salespeople, best managers, best leaders, best developers, whatever it is. Anything else you decide with your team, what is that meaning? So why is meaning important? Well, again, as you may have guessed, the research agrees. This time we've got research from Texas A&M International University. We've got research from Wharton University. And we've got research from Google as well, which is never something that should be ignored considering the size and the power of Google. Let's look at Wharton University first. And this comes from researcher Adam Grant. What a wonderful, wonderful man. In a study with a call center asking for donations, when employees were able to speak with those people who benefited from the donations, this is just what we were talking about, their collection rate went up by more than 270%. So how amazing and how crazy is that? You're tying the work that they're doing, making donation collections, to the meaning and the power behind it and the purpose behind it, seeing the benefit of and the outcome of the work. And these customers, they would say, I can't believe my life has changed. I was able to go to school. I was able to go to, university, whatever it is, whatever that outcome is. In his own words, Adam Grant says employees who know how their work has a meaningful, positive impact on others are not just happier than those who don't, they are vastly more productive too. Now, for those managers who just want, information on the bottom line, just give me the numbers. I don't want touchy-feely employee engagement stuff. This is where it comes in. They're more productive. When someone's more productive, if they can give you 1.5 times output instead of just 1 times output, what is that worth to you? It's worth a lot. Trust me, it's worth a lot. And as we saw at the beginning, 21% profitability. It's already been proven, but you can prove it in your own work as well. Of course, Google, let's look at Google. Remember in 2012, this is our project called Aristotle. They found meaning and purpose was important to high-performing teams and their engagement. Finding a sense of purpose in either the work itself or the output, as we saw, is important for team effectiveness. The meaning of work is personal. So that's why it's important to sit down with your team and figure it out. And it can vary. Could it be financial security? Are they working for that lower level Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Do they just need that financial security? Are they wanting to support their family and their home? Again, we see the hierarchy of needs come into play. All this stuff is really interrelated. It's all related. And are we helping the team succeed? So now we've got our higher achievement. And are we wanting self-expression for each individual, which is our meaning? This is actually crazy how much this relates to Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So that's really interesting. But also, the point is, it's different for everyone. So that's why we sit down with a team and figure it out collaboratively. We don't just dictate it. Now, of course, there's more. Texas A&M International University. This one is really, really great. Researchers Jacqueline and Milton Mayfield studied motivating language. So how do you motivate people through pep talks and speeches and a chat and a check-in when you're checking in with your team? How do you get them to do what you need them to do? They studied this for more than 30 years, and they found that there were 3 key things that leaders could do to motivate their team members when they check in with them. And the first cap off the rank, is meaning-making language. In other words, giving meaning to the work that they're doing, the why behind what they're doing. Of course, they had other things like direction-giving language, which is giving clarity to the work. So step by step, do we know what we need to do to get where we want to go? And of course, having empathy. This one was good too. Genuinely relating to your team when things are hard. Things aren't always easy. Life is not always easy. Life gets in the way very frequently. Just ask someone with kids. It's sometimes life gets really crazy and really busy very quickly. And so do that. Have a little empathy for people and what they're going through. And that is engagement through meaning. Okay, let's move on to our point 5. It's matching our skills to the task. So what do we mean by matching our skills to the task, or the skills of our team to the task that they're performing? Basically, it means finding out what each individual in your team is naturally good at. We all have natural skills. We have things that we're better at than others. Some people are born salespeople. Some people are born analysts. And maybe not born, but it's the skill that they've honed the most somehow through their mysterious set of circumstances in their life to come to where they are now. And what we find is that many different people will have many different skills. So giving more of that type of work to them. Now, even if your work is really, really set in stone, there's only one task that they can do day in, day out. There are still ways to help your people, to give them more of that type of work, whatever that is. There are definitely ways around this, no matter what your original style of work is. So, for example, are they good at speaking? Let them do work on a presentation to management. Are they good at analyzing things? Give them some data and give them a problem to solve. And watch them work their magic. Are they good at teaching, selling, coding, contracts, relationships? The list is as long as there are people in the world. All of these things you can weave into their work, and you can reap the benefits because they'll be naturally doing something that they're good at. They'll get it done more quickly, and also, as we're going to find out, they'll be happier in the work that they're doing. So why is matching skills to the task important? Again, as you may have guessed, that research, decades and decades of research, it does agree. We've got Gallup and Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. And with Gallup, 2009, the Gallup Business Journal asked a random sample of 1,000 US employees whether their manager focused on their strengths or focused on their weaknesses. So what they found was managers who focused on strengths had 61% engaged team members. Not bad. That's actually really great. That's probably above the average for most companies, I would believe. Managers who focused on weaknesses had 45% engaged team members. So that's our clear difference already. A difference of, say, 16%. I hope my maths is correct there. but an instant. So just by focusing on the strengths of your team when you check in with them, you can improve your engagement score and the engagement of your team by 16%. That's a pretty good deal, right? Managers who ignored their team altogether saw only 2% staff. Now we're going to look at that further down the track as well, but that's an interesting one to throw in. So the long and the short of that is make sure you check in with your staff, which we'll see in a second. Of course, we've got Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and remember his study? When a person experienced the flow state, a state of ease and happiness, the other of the three things that he found as key to that state was that the skills of the person were more or less in balance with the challenges that the activity provided. So what activity were they doing? Were their skills more or less in balance with that activity? They didn't have to struggle too hard, maybe a little bit of struggle, but they also, it wasn't so easy that they were just like so bored. I'm bored, I could do this, with my eyes closed. Both of those two states are not great, but right in the middle, when everything is balanced with the challenges, that is where you find the state of flow. That's where you find the state of engagement with your teams. Why is this important? Have you ever heard of people being addicted to video games? Oh, the younger generation. No, they're all going to be horrible people because they're just addicted to video games. Why are they addicted to video games? Video games are the perfect example of engagement and flow. When a player gets better, they go up a level and the difficulty increases. The difficulty level is matched to their skills. It's perfect. Skills are matched to the challenge and they experience that state of flow, and that state of flow keeps them going even when they should be going to bed, should be studying, or should be working, or whatever it is. So all of that together is matching skills to the task and finding engagement through that. Okay, so we're down to our last two, checking in and progress. So as you can see, each one of these so far, clarity, meaning, matching skills to the task, each of those by themselves could potentially increase the engagement, the employee engagement of your teams, so you could reap those benefits. And of course, putting them all together is just going to have astounding results. I really can't wait for you to do it. Honestly, I want to hear about the great things that you're about to do because of this. It makes so much sense. But checking in, our second to last. Thank you for sticking with me this far. Checking in, what does it mean? It means catching up with your team regularly. So catching up daily or twice weekly at least. And why do we check in with our team? As a leader, why do we check in? Or even as a team without a leader, why do we check in? As a team, we want to help remove blockers so that the work moves forward. And we'll see why that's important in the next section. We want to coach. We want to be a coach. As a leader, coaches, basically all of the research points to leaders coaching their team through problems and helping them find that sense of progress. As we'll see, that's really important. But coaching the team to help them keep their skill level in balance. And we also want to ensure that the tasks are matched to the skill set, which is one of our important things. But we check in. We check in as a team. We want to see how everyone's going. We want to help remove the blockers so that they can keep moving forward and find that sense of progress. And we want to just be a good friend, be a good coach. Why is checking in important? Of course, the research is there. By now, you're probably seeing a pattern here. Lots of research that I've put together on this very simple seeming framework. We've got Stanford Healthcare, University of Auckland, Gallup Business Journal, and Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. Again, yes, he's throughout this whole thing. Let's first look at Stanford Healthcare. Now, they struggled with losing talent in a highly competitive market, and their employee engagement score was around 42% when they first started this next program that we're going to see. They had leaders focus on checking in, frequent light touch conversations about near-term future work. So what's happening, what's coming up, how can I help? Just checking in on how it's going. The more they checked in, the higher engagement was. And when they started doing this, after 3 months, just 3 months, fully engaged staff members increased by 10%. That's huge. That's wonderful. Like I said, most companies would be happy with 1 or 2 percentage points, maybe even 5. But just a very simple check-in from a leader to a team member about near-term future work. After 3 months, 10% increase. After 7 months, 14% increase. And how much does it cost for your leader to check in with their team? Well, to be honest, it's something that they should be doing anyway, really, as a leader, right? Unless you're in the ignored category, which we'll look at. So let's look at that now, actually. Gallup Business Journal. We've already seen this a little bit, and that's that same survey. 1,000 US employees, whether their manager focused on their strengths or their weaknesses. We've already looked at the strengths and the weaknesses part. But this is what happens when your manager is sort of absentee. He or she is not around, doesn't really check in, doesn't really help you with coach you through or help remove blockers. You're basically in the ignored category. So the difference there is 59% drop in engagement. You've got 61% up here, where managers focus on their strengths and they check in regularly, or you've got 2% engaged, where the manager really doesn't care. They don't check in at all. They don't want to help their employees necessarily, or whatever their reasons are. Whatever it is, we already know it pays to check in more frequently now. Now, when you're checking in, it pays also to be a coach, not to micromanage and say, well, I'm going to do this for you because you did it wrong, or you missed a full stop. Sometimes, yes, full stops are important, but also let people work their way, let them be a player on the team, and you coach them as the coach of the team. So John Hattie and Helen Timperley in the University of Auckland found that the giving feedback, that in their comprehensive review of giving feedback, that there are a few things that did not work, and you may already know what these are. Giving rewards didn't work. Giving punishments didn't work over the long term to coerce people's behavior. Giving negative feedback did not work over the long term. People would slowly slide back just to where their normal level of behavior was. However, what they did find worked. Instead, they found that supportive feedback. So what can be done about a situation? Clarity on the steps required in the form of improving a specific task or reaching a specific goal had the most desired effect. Now, this is strange and also wonderful because it ties in with our clear objective and the clear steps that we want to get there. That is the real key to improving engagement when you check in. Now, lastly, it wouldn't be complete without Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. Wonderful, wonderful man. And in his flow research, he did find also the third part to the flow state was the person could clearly tell and immediately tell whether he or she had made a mistake. So he or she had that feedback straight away. And this is the same in video games as well. You know, if the bad guy shoots you, then you lose a hit point. You can see, and the screen goes red and your hearts go down, whatever it is. You can clearly see whether you're winning, whether you're losing, whether you're getting towards your goal or whether you're getting further away from your goal. And again, video games, the perfect example of people sometimes becoming addicted to them because it puts them in this wonderful and beautiful flow state, this state of engagement. And they can clearly see whether they've made a mistake or not. That's that feedback, immediate feedback on whether they're closer or further away to their goal. And that is engagement through checking in. Now, last but not least, in our 4.5 steps, we have a sense of progress. Progress, what does it mean? Very, very simple. Let's start by defining it. First of all, it means that to make sure that your team has a sense of progress in their work, that they're not blocked in their work, and that they feel that they're growing and improving over time. That sense of progress, very simple. It means checking in and removing blockers, as we've seen. It means working with the team to improve their broader skill set over time. So they need to be progressing, getting better, having growth. And then working on the work itself. So can you improve the task? And when you're improving the task, you're focusing on the task itself becomes the motivation, not necessarily all the other things around it, like money, rewards, bonuses. Now, why is progress important? The research agrees, as always. We've got Professor Teresa Amabile and Dr. Jason Fox looking at two things in regards to progress. Teresa Amabile and Stephen J. Kramer found in their study of more than 12,000 employee journal entries. So they had employees write in their journal every single day, whether they were happy, whether they were not, at certain times. And what they found over a prolonged period of time, that it wasn't money, it wasn't perks, it wasn't recognition, and it wasn't time off or any other things that managers usually think motivates their staff. It wasn't those things that contributed to their happiness. It was a sense of progress, a sense of moving forward, and specifically progress in work that was meaningful to them. So there's that meaning again. Again, all of this stuff is tied together. It's all related. Specifically progress in meaningful work. People were also 50% more likely to find creative solutions on the days that they reported their most positive moods. So how would you like a team full of people who come up with creative solutions to your problems that they can actually pull off and would like to work back and help you with? Obviously, that's the benefit of engagement. Dr. Jason Fox took this idea to the next level, where he found in his research that you've got progress, yes, that's important, and one of the easiest ways to sort of get this across and help everyone be on the same page was to make that progress visible to the person and to the team. You may have seen this in the agile methodology of Kanban, which literally means signboard or something similar to that in Japanese. It's where you've got all of the work in the form of cards, tasks, and they move across a Kanban board from left to right, from the backlog where they start into different columns until they are finished. And that's a really easy way to visualize that progress so that everyone can see it really clearly. And we've reached the end. Thank you very much for sticking with me through that whole thing. I think you're amazing just for doing that. It's not necessarily, an episode of Game of Thrones or something that you might naturally want to watch in your time off. Instead, you've sat here and gone through how to help your team, which is such a noble pursuit. It's such a wonderful thing. I really have to congratulate you just for doing that. So this is our framework: clarity, meaning, matching the skills to the task, checking in, and progress. Doing one of these things alone will improve by between 14 and 59%. Putting them all together will have a huge impact on your business, on your happiness, on your well-being, on the meaning that you bring to work and the meaning that you bring back home to your family. And that is really such a wonderful cause to improve that happiness of everyone. And also improve the bottom line while you're at it. Just so you know, each of these things, to do clarity, to bring meaning, there are tasks and sort of workshops that you can do to find out how to bring progress, how to bring clarity. You know, if you don't really know where to start, you can have a go at it. But also, if you want more information on how to genuinely workshop this stuff, please reach out. I'm always here. I love to talk about this stuff. And I have very clear guidelines on how to actually extract all of this and get it down in writing and help your team succeed. I hope you've enjoyed this. I've enjoyed having you here. Thank you very much for stopping by, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.